Isabella Chun had everything. At 32, she was the CEO of Cloud Tech Industries, a company she built from her dorm room into a $50 billion empire. Forbes called her the youngest self-made female billionaire in tech. But money couldn't buy her the one thing she wanted most: genuine love. That's why when she met Marcus Williams at a charity gala 2 years ago, she thought she'd finally found her fairy tale. Marcus was charming, handsome, and seemed to love her for who she was, not what she was worth. He was a successful lawyer from a good family, and most importantly, he never asked her for money. In fact, he insisted on paying for their dates, even though Isabella could have bought the entire restaurant without blinking. "I want to take care of you," Marcus would say, holding her hand across candlelit tables. "I want you to feel like you can just be Isabella with me, not the CEO, not the billionaire. Just you." Those words melted her heart every single time. The proposal came on a beach in Santorini, just as the sun was setting. Marcus got down on one knee with a ring he'd saved up for months to buy. It wasn't the most expensive ring Isabella had ever seen, but it was the most meaningful. He chose it himself, he earned it himself, and he gave it to her with tears in his eyes. "Isabella, you've changed my life," he said, his voice shaking with emotion. "I never believed in soulmates until I met you. Will you marry me?" She said yes before he could even finish the question. The wedding planning was a dream. Isabella wanted something intimate, but Marcus convinced her they should celebrate properly. "You only get married once," he'd say with that charming smile. "Let's make it unforgettable." So they planned the wedding of the century. A $3 million ceremony at the most exclusive venue in Napa Valley. 500 guests, including tech moguls, politicians, and celebrities. The dress alone cost more than most people's houses. But Isabella didn't care about the money. She cared about the man who would be waiting for her at the altar. The morning of the wedding, Isabella woke up in her bridal suite feeling like the luckiest woman alive. Her best friend and maid of honor, Sarah, was helping her get ready when Isabella's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Check your email. You deserve to know the truth before you walk down that aisle." Isabella's heart skipped a beat. Wedding days always came with drama, but something about this message felt different. More serious. More dangerous. "Who is it?" Sarah asked, noticing Isabella's expression. "Probably just wedding spam," Isabella replied, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. Against her better judgment, she opened her email. What she found there changed everything. The email contained a video file and a message. "I'm sorry you have to find out this way, but I couldn't let you marry him without knowing who he really is." This was recorded last night at his bachelor party. Isabella's hands trembled as she clicked play. The video showed Marcus at what looked like an upscale bar, surrounded by his groomsmen. At first, it seemed innocent enough. Just guys having drinks and celebrating. But then she heard his voice, loud and clear, saying words that would haunt her forever. "You guys want to know the truth." Marcus was laughing, clearly drunk. "I don't love Isabella. I mean, she's nice enough, but come on. She's not exactly my type, is she?" The camera caught his friends laughing, encouraging him to continue. "But do you know what $50 billion can do for a guy? I'll put up with her for a few years, play the loving husband, and then, divorce. With California's community property laws, I'll walk away with half of everything. $25 billion, boys. That's my retirement plan." Isabella's world collapsed in that moment. The phone slipped from her hands, clattering to the floor of the marble bathroom. Sarah rushed over, asking what was wrong, but Isabella couldn't speak. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't think. The man she loved, the man she trusted with her heart, had been playing her from the very beginning. Every romantic gesture, every sweet word, every moment of apparent vulnerability had been an act. A performance designed to steal her life's work. But then, something shifted inside Isabella. The hurt began to transform into something else. Something harder. Something more dangerous. Marcus Williams had made a critical error. He'd underestimated who he was dealing with. You don't build a $50 billion company by being weak. You don't survive in the tech world by being naive. And you definitely don't become the youngest self-made female billionaire by letting people take advantage of you. Isabella Chun was about to remind the world exactly who she was. "Isabella, you're scaring me. What was in that video?" Isabella looked at her reflection in the mirror. She was still wearing her wedding dress, still looked like a bride ready to walk down the aisle. But everything had changed. The woman looking back at her wasn't the naive romantic who'd said yes to Marcus's proposal. This was the CEO who'd crushed competitors and built an empire from nothing. Just trust me, Sarah. I need time to think. After Sarah left, Isabella sat in her bridal suite and did what she did best. She planned. Her mind raced through possibilities, calculating risks and outcomes like she was preparing for a board meeting. But this wasn't about market share or quarterly profits. This was about justice. She picked up her phone and made a call. David, it's Isabella. I need you to do something for me, and I need it done in the next 20 minutes. David Kim was her head of security, a former FBI agent who'd worked for her for 5 years. He was also one of the few people who knew about her more creative problem-solving methods. What do you need, Ms. Chun? I need you to verify something for me. I'm sending you a video file. I need to know if it's real, when it was recorded, and who sent it to me. Can you do that? Give me 15 minutes. While David worked his magic, Isabella opened her laptop and began typing. If Marcus wanted to play games, she'd show him how a real player operated. But first, she needed to know exactly what she was dealing with. Her phone buzzed. David's report was thorough. The video was real, recorded the night before at Marcus's bachelor party, and sent from a burner phone purchased with cash. Someone wanted her to know the truth, but they'd been careful to remain anonymous. Isabella smiled for the first time that morning. She appreciated good strategy, even from unknown allies. Sarah, come back up here, she called. When Sarah entered the suite, she found Isabella sitting calmly at her vanity, touching up her makeup. Are you okay? You look different. I'm perfect, Isabella replied, and she meant it. I need you to do one more thing for me. I need you to go find Marcus and tell him I want to see him privately before the ceremony. Tell him I have something special to give him. Isabella, what's going on? I'm about to give my fiancé exactly what he deserves. 20 minutes later, there was a knock on the door. Isabella opened it to find Marcus standing there in his tuxedo, looking every bit the perfect groom. For a moment, her heart ached for the man she thought she'd fallen in love with. But that man had never existed. Hey, beautiful, Marcus said, flashing that charming smile that had fooled her for 2 years. Sarah said you wanted to see me? You know it's bad luck for the groom to see the bride before the ceremony. I think we're past worrying about bad luck, Isabella replied, stepping aside to let him in. Marcus entered the suite, and Isabella closed the door behind him. The click of the lock seemed to echo in the sudden silence. You look incredible, Marcus continued, seemingly oblivious to the danger he was in. I can't believe in 30 minutes, you're going to be my wife. I'm the luckiest man alive. The performance was flawless. If Isabella hadn't seen the video, she might have believed every word. But she had seen it, and now she saw him for exactly what he was, a predator who'd spent 2 years hunting her. Marcus, I want to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me. Of course, baby. You can ask me anything. Isabella walked to her dresser and picked up a small gift box. Do you love me? Marcus's expression softened, and he stepped closer. Isabella, you know I do. I love you more than anything in the world. You're my everything. She handed him the box. Then I have something for you. Marcus opened the box with a smile that quickly faded. Inside was a USB drive and a note that read, "For the performance of a lifetime." What is this? Marcus asked, but Isabella could see in his eyes that he already knew. It's your bachelor party speech, Isabella said, her voice steady and cold. The one where you told your friends how you don't love me, how I'm not your type, and how you're planning to divorce me for half my fortune. The mask finally slipped. Marcus's charming smile disappeared, replaced by something ugly and desperate. Isabella, I can explain. No need, she interrupted. I heard everything. Every word. Every laugh. Every detail of your little plan. Marcus's mind was racing. She could see it. He was trying to figure out how to spin this, how to manipulate his way out of the situation. But Isabella was done being manipulated. So here's what's going to happen, she continued. You're going to walk downstairs, and you're going to tell all those people that you can't marry me. You're going to apologize, take full responsibility, and then you're going to disappear from my life forever. Isabella, please, just listen to me. Or, she interrupted again, I can walk down that aisle, stand at the altar, and play this video for all 500 guests, including your parents, your boss, and every influential person in this city. Your choice. Marcus stared at her, and for the first time, Isabella saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. He was finally seeing her as she truly was, not a naive romantic, but a woman who'd built an empire by being smarter, tougher, and more ruthless than everyone else. "You wouldn't," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Isabella smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing Marcus had ever seen. "Try me." Marcus stood frozen in the bridal suite, his face cycling through emotions like a broken slot machine. Shock, anger, fear, and finally, a last desperate attempt at manipulation. "Isabella, baby, please. You don't understand. I was drunk. I was just trying to impress the guys. You know how men are when they're together. We say stupid things we don't mean." Isabella almost laughed. Even caught red-handed, he was still trying to manipulate her. Still trying to make her doubt what she'd seen with her own eyes. "You know what, Marcus? You're right. I don't understand. I don't understand how someone could spend 2 years pretending to love someone. I don't understand how you could look me in the eye every day and lie. I don't understand how you could plan to destroy my life and call it love." She walked to the window, looking down at the wedding guests mingling in the garden below. 500 people, all waiting to celebrate what they thought was true love. Her parents had flown in from Singapore. Her business partners were here. The mayor was here. The governor was here. "But here's what I do understand," she continued, turning back to face him. "I understand that you made a mistake. You went after the wrong woman." Marcus's lawyer instincts finally kicked in. "Isabella, think about this rationally. If you expose me, you'll humiliate yourself too. Everyone will know you were fooled. Your reputation." "My reputation?" Isabella's voice was deadly quiet. "You think I care about my reputation more than my dignity? You think I care about what people think more than the truth?" She picked up her phone and opened the video file. "Let me show you something about my reputation, Marcus. My reputation is that I'm a woman who doesn't back down from a fight. My reputation is that I'm someone who crushes people who try to take advantage of me. My reputation is that I'm not someone you want as an enemy." The blood drained from Marcus's face as he realized she was serious. She was actually going to destroy him. "Isabella, please. I'll disappear. I'll move to another state. You'll never see me again. Just please don't ruin my life." "Ruin your life?" Isabella's laugh was sharp and bitter. "You tried to ruin mine. You spent 2 years plotting to steal everything I've worked for. You made me fall in love with a lie. And now you're worried about your life being ruined." She started pacing the room, her mind working through the details of her plan. "You know what's funny? If you had just been honest from the beginning, if you had told me you were interested in my money, we could have worked something out. I've had gold diggers before. At least they were honest about what they wanted." "Isabella. But you didn't want to be honest. You wanted to be clever. You wanted to play the long game. You wanted to make me fall in love with you so you could take half of everything I've built." She stopped pacing and faced him directly. "Well, congratulations, Marcus. You succeeded. I did fall in love with you. With the person I thought you were. And now I'm going to show you what happens when you break a billionaire's heart." Marcus was sweating now, his perfect groom appearance starting to crack. "What do you want?" "Money. I'll sign a prenup. I'll sign whatever you want. I don't want your signature on anything. I want you to face the consequences of your actions." Isabella's phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "Everyone's asking when you're coming down. The officiant is getting worried." "Time's up," Isabella said, showing Marcus the message. "Decision time. Walk down there and call off the wedding yourself, or I walk down that aisle and show everyone exactly who you really are." Marcus looked around the room desperately, like a trapped animal searching for an escape route. But there was none. Isabella had him cornered, and they both knew it. "You're a cold-hearted bitch," he said, his mask finally slipping completely. "There he is," Isabella said with satisfaction. "The real Marcus Williams. Not the charming prince, not the loving fiancé, but the bitter, greedy man who thinks he can steal from a woman and get away with it." She walked to the door and put her hand on the handle. "I'm going downstairs now. You have exactly 5 minutes to decide how you want this to end." "Isabella, wait." But she was already gone, leaving Marcus alone in the bridal suite with his thoughts and his fears. Downstairs, the wedding guests were getting restless. Isabella's parents were asking questions. The photographers were checking their equipment. The officiant was looking at his watch. Isabella appeared at the top of the grand staircase, and a hush fell over the crowd. She looked magnificent in her wedding dress, every inch the perfect bride. But something was different. There was a steel in her eyes that hadn't been there before. She descended the stairs slowly, regally, like a queen approaching her throne. The guests parted to let her pass, whispering among themselves about how beautiful she looked, how perfect everything was. But Isabella wasn't walking toward the altar. She was walking toward the sound system. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice carrying across the garden through the microphone. "Thank you all for being here today. Before we begin the ceremony, I have something I'd like to share with you." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This wasn't part of the program. As many of you know, I built my company on the principle of transparency. I believe that truth, however painful, is always better than deception. Today, I want to share a truth with you. Marcus appeared at the edge of the crowd, his face pale with panic. He was pushing through the guests, trying to reach her, but Isabella's security team quietly intercepted him. 2 years ago, I met a man who I thought was the love of my life. He was charming, romantic, and seemingly genuine. He told me he loved me for who I was, not what I was worth. He proposed to me with a ring he saved for months to buy. And I believed every word he said. The crowd was completely silent now, sensing that something momentous was about to happen. Last night, I received a video that changed everything. A video of my fiancé at his bachelor party, explaining to his friends that he doesn't love me, that I'm not his type, and that his plan was to marry me, divorce me, and take half of my fortune. Gasps echoed through the garden. Isabella's parents looked shocked. The business associates were pulling out their phones. The mayor was shaking his head in disbelief. "I want you all to hear this," Isabella continued, "because I believe you deserve to know the truth about the man I almost married." She pressed play on her phone, and Marcus's voice filled the garden, crystal clear and damning. "I don't love Isabella. I mean, she's nice enough, but come on. She's not exactly my type, is she? But do you know what $50 billion can do for a guy? I'll put up with her for a few years, play the loving husband, and then divorce. With California's community property laws, I'll walk away with half of everything. $25 billion, boys. That's my retirement plan." The silence that followed was deafening. 500 people stared at Isabella, then at Marcus, then back at Isabella. Marcus looked like he wanted to disappear into the ground. "So," Isabella said, her voice steady and strong, "there will be no wedding today. But there will be a lesson. A lesson about what happens when you try to deceive Isabella Chun." She looked directly at Marcus, who was standing frozen among the guests. "You wanted to play games with a billionaire's heart, Marcus. Let's see how you like the game I'm about to play with your life." The crowd began to murmur, then talk, then shout. Reporters were making phone calls. Business associates were taking pictures. Marcus's parents were crying. And Isabella stood in the center of it all, calm and composed, finally free from the lies that had bound her for 2 years. But this was just the beginning. Isabella Chen was about to show the world what real... The garden erupted into chaos. Reporters were shouting questions. Guests were pulling out their phones to record. Marcus's parents were trying to push through the crowd to reach their son. But Isabella stood in the center of it all like the eye of a hurricane, calm and utterly in control. "Security," she said quietly into her earpiece. "Please escort Mr. Williams from the premises." David Kim and his team moved through the crowd with professional efficiency. Marcus tried to resist, tried to shout explanations and apologies, but no one was listening. The damage was done. In the space of 5 minutes, his reputation, his career, and his future had been obliterated. "This isn't over, Isabella," Marcus shouted as security led him away. "You can't destroy me like this." Isabella watched him go with no emotion on her face. "Actually, Marcus, I can. And I just did." The guests were in full gossip mode now. Isabella's phone was buzzing constantly with calls from reporters, business associates, and friends. But she ignored them all. She had more work to do. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos, "I know this isn't what you expected when you came here today. But I want you to know that I'm grateful you're here to witness this moment. Truth has a way of setting us free, even when it's painful." She looked around at the faces in the crowd. Some showed sympathy, others showed shock, and a few showed the kind of respect that comes from watching someone refuse to be a victim. "The reception is still happening," she continued. "The food is paid for, the band is here, and frankly, I could use a drink. So please, stay and celebrate with me." Not a wedding, but something better. A liberation. Slowly, the crowd began to relax. Isabella's parents rushed over to embrace their daughter. Her business partners gathered around her with protective solidarity. The mayor, who'd known Isabella for years, shook her hand with obvious admiration. That, he said, was the most impressive display of strength I've ever witnessed. But Isabella knew the real work was just beginning. Exposing Marcus publicly was only the first step. She excused herself from the reception and went to her temporary office, which she'd set up in the venue's business center. She had calls to make. David, I need you to compile a complete dossier on Marcus Williams. Everything. His finances, his employment history, his college records, his family background. I want to know every detail of his life. Already on it, Ms. Chun. I'll have a full report by tomorrow morning. Good. And David, I want you to make sure this story gets to the right people. Every legal blog, every business publication, every news outlet that matters. I want Marcus Williams to be unemployable. Consider it done. Next, she called her team of lawyers. I need to know if Marcus has any legal recourse against me for what I did today. And I need to know what legal action I can take against him for fraud, emotional distress, and attempted theft. We'll research it immediately, Ms. Chun. But from what we heard today, you're in a very strong position. Then she called her head of public relations. Sarah, I need you to control the narrative on this. I want everyone to know that Isabella Chun doesn't tolerate deception, and that anyone who tries to take advantage of her will face consequences. Already working on it. The early response has been overwhelmingly positive. People are calling you a hero for standing up to a gold digger. As the afternoon wore on, Isabella watched the story spread across social media like wildfire. #Billionaire Bride Revenge was trending worldwide. The video of Marcus's bachelor party confession had been viewed millions of times. News outlets were calling it the most expensive wedding that never happened and the ultimate gold digger takedown. But the real satisfaction came from the reports her security team was feeding her about Marcus's day. Within hours of the wedding disaster, Marcus's law firm had suspended him pending investigation. His apartment building had received so many angry calls that they'd asked him to leave. His credit cards were being canceled. His social media accounts were being bombarded with hate messages. Isabella felt a moment of something that might have been pity, but then she remembered his words from the video. I'll put up with her for a few years, play the loving husband, and then divorce. The pity disappeared. That evening, alone in her penthouse apartment, Isabella finally allowed herself to feel the full weight of what had happened. She'd been betrayed by the man she loved, humiliated in front of 500 people, and forced to destroy someone's life in self-defense. But she'd also discovered something about herself. She was stronger than she'd ever imagined. She'd faced the worst kind of betrayal and come out fighting. She'd refused to be a victim. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Is this Isabella Chun? Who is this? This is Detective Martinez with the San Francisco Police Department. I'm calling about Marcus Williams. He was found in his apartment an hour ago. He's attempted suicide. Isabella's blood turned to ice. Is he? He's alive. He's in the hospital. But Ms. Chun, he left a note. He blames you for ruining his life. We need to talk. Isabella closed her eyes. She'd wanted justice, not tragedy. She'd wanted to protect herself, not destroy someone completely. I'll be right there, she said. As she drove to the hospital, Isabella realized that revenge, no matter how justified, always came with a price. She'd won the battle, but she wasn't sure yet what the victory would cost her. The real question was, what would she do now? The hospital corridor was sterile and cold, filled with the antiseptic smell that Isabella would forever associate with this moment. Detective Martinez was waiting for her outside the ICU, his expression grave. Ms. Chun, thank you for coming. I know this is difficult. Isabella looked through the window at Marcus lying in the hospital bed, connected to machines and monitors. Even now, even after everything, seeing him like this made her chest tighten with an emotion she didn't want to name. How is he? She asked. Stable. He took a lot of pills, but his neighbor heard him screaming and called 911. The doctors say he'll recover physically. Detective Martinez led her to a quiet corner of the waiting area. Ms. Chun, I need to ask you some questions about what happened today. The whole thing was filmed and posted online, so we have a pretty clear picture of events, but I need to hear your side. Isabella told him everything. The video, the confrontation, the public revelation. She left nothing out, even the parts that made her look cold and calculating. Ms. Chen, I have to ask, did you consider the possibility that publicly humiliating Mr. Williams might drive him to this? The question hit Isabella like a physical blow. Had she considered it? In her anger and hurt, had she thought about what complete public destruction might do to a person? I wanted him to face consequences for what he did. I wanted justice. But I never wanted this. I believe you, Detective Martinez said. And for what it's worth, what he did to you was unconscionable. But I need to tell you that his family is threatening to sue you. They're claiming you deliberately drove him to this. Isabella nodded. She'd expected as much. Detective, can I see him? He's sedated, but yes. Just for a few minutes. Isabella entered the ICU room with heavy steps. Marcus looked smaller somehow, diminished by the machines and the weight of his actions. She sat in the chair beside his bed and studied his face, searching for any trace of the man she'd thought she loved. I'm sorry, she whispered, though she wasn't sure if she was apologizing to him or to herself. A nurse entered to check his vitals. Are you family? No, Isabella said. I was someone who cared about him once. He's been asking for you, the nurse said quietly. Every time he's been conscious, he's asked for Isabella. Isabella's heart clenched. Is he awake now? He drifts in and out. But if you want to talk to him, now might be a good time. Isabella leaned closer to the bed. Marcus, can you hear me? His eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then settling on her face. Isabella. I'm here. I'm sorry, he whispered, his voice raw and broken. I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. Which part? Isabella asked gently. The lying for 2 years, or the plan to steal my fortune? Marcus closed his eyes. All of it. I did love you, Isabella. Maybe not at first, but I did. Somewhere along the way, the fake feelings became real. But I was in too deep. I couldn't figure out how to tell you the truth. Isabella felt tears threatening for the first time since the morning. So you decided to steal from me instead. I was scared. Scared that if you knew the truth about why I approached you originally, you'd never forgive me. So I kept lying, kept pretending, kept digging myself deeper. Marcus, if you had just told me the truth, would you have forgiven me? He asked, his eyes searching hers. If I had told you that I targeted you for your money but ended up falling for you for real, would you have given me a chance? Isabella considered the question seriously. I don't know. Maybe. But we'll never know now, will we? Marcus turned his head away. I deserve everything that happened to me today. But Isabella, what you did, it destroyed me. My career, my family, my future. Everything. You were planning to destroy me too, Isabella reminded him. You were planning to take half of everything I've worked for. I know. And I hate myself for it. But did you have to be so thorough? Isabella stood up from the chair. Marcus, you made me fall in love with a lie. You spent 2 years planning to betray me in the worst possible way. And when I found out, you still tried to manipulate me. So yes, I was thorough. Because that's who I am. That's how I built my company, and that's how I protect myself. I know, he said again. I wish things had been different. So do I, Isabella said, and she meant it. But they weren't. She headed for the door, then stopped. Marcus, I need you to know something. I didn't want it to end like this. I wanted you to face consequences, but I never wanted you to hurt yourself. If you had just been honest with me from the beginning. I know, he interrupted. I know. Isabella. Yes. I really did love you. At the end, I really did. Isabella looked at him one last time, this broken man who had almost become her husband. I believe you. But love isn't enough when it's built on lies. She left the hospital with a heavy heart. Outside, reporters were waiting, cameras flashing, questions being shouted. But Isabella's security team efficiently escorted her to her car without her having to speak to anyone. As she drove home, Isabella reflected on the day's events. She'd won. Marcus's plan had been exposed, his career was over, and everyone knew the truth about what he'd tried to do. But the victory felt hollow now, tainted by the sight of him in that hospital bed. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. The story is everywhere. You're being called a hero. But are you okay? Isabella typed back, I'm fine. Justice isn't always pretty, but it's necessary. But as she sent the message, she wondered if she believed it herself. Over the next few weeks, the story continued to dominate headlines. Marcus recovered physically but remained in psychiatric care. His family did try to sue Isabella, but the case was dismissed when the judge ruled that she'd simply revealed the truth about Marcus's own actions. Isabella returned to running her company, but she was different now. Harder, perhaps. More suspicious of people's motives. She'd learned that even the people closest to you could be planning to betray you. But she'd also learned something else. She'd learned that she was stronger than she'd ever imagined. She'd faced the worst kind of betrayal and not only survived but emerged victorious. She'd refused to be a victim. 6 months later, Isabella was featured on the cover of Fortune magazine with the headline, "The Billionaire Who Fought Back." In the interview, she was asked if she regretted what she'd done. "I regret that it was necessary," she said. "I regret that someone I loved could deceive me so completely. But I don't regret standing up for myself. I don't regret refusing to be taken advantage of. And I don't regret showing the world that there are consequences for trying to steal from someone who's worked for everything she has." The interviewer asked if she'd ever trust again, ever open her heart to love again. Isabella smiled, and for the first time in months, it reached her eyes. "I'm not ready yet. But someday, maybe. When I meet someone who loves me for who I am, not what I'm worth. Someone who's honest from the very beginning. Someone who understands that trust, once broken, is almost impossible to rebuild." She paused, looking out the window of her office at the city she'd conquered through determination and brilliance. "I'm Isabella Chen. I built a $50 billion company from nothing. I've survived corporate espionage, hostile takeovers, and a fiancé who tried to steal my life's work. I'm not afraid of taking risks. I'm not afraid of getting hurt. But I'm also not afraid of fighting back when someone tries to destroy me." The interviewer asked one final question. "What would you say to other women who might find themselves in a similar situation?" Isabella's answer was firm and clear. Don't be a victim. Don't let someone else's betrayal define you. Fight back. Stand up for yourself. And remember that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply tell the truth. As the interview ended, Isabella felt a sense of closure she hadn't experienced since that fateful wedding day. She'd turned her pain into power, her betrayal into strength. 3 years later, Isabella would meet Dr. James Mitchell at a medical conference where her company was announcing a new healthcare technology platform. He was a pediatric surgeon who had no idea who she was when he struck up a conversation about her presentation. He was kind, genuine, and completely unimpressed by her wealth. When he finally learned who she was, his first question wasn't about her money. It was about whether she was happy. "Are you happy?" he asked over coffee after their third date. "I'm getting there," Isabella replied, and for the first time since Marcus, she meant it. But that's a story for another day. This story, the story of Isabella Chen's wedding day revenge, became legend in Silicon Valley. It was a reminder that some people are too powerful to be victims, too smart to be fooled for long, and too strong to be broken by betrayal. Marcus Williams never fully recovered from the scandal. He left California, changed his name, and now works as a junior associate at a small firm in a quiet Midwest town. He never married. Some say he still has nightmares about that wedding day, about the moment Isabella Chen showed the world exactly who she was. And Isabella? She kept building her empire, kept innovating, kept proving that truth, no matter how painful, is always more powerful than lies. She learned to love again, to trust again, but she never forgot the lesson Marcus taught her, that sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones planning to hurt you the worst. But she also learned something else. She learned that when you refuse to be a victim, when you stand up for yourself with intelligence and strength, you don't just win, you inspire others to do the same. The most expensive wedding that never happened became the most powerful statement about justice, dignity, and the price of deception that the world had ever seen. And Isabella Chen? She lived happily ever after, not because she found her prince, but because she realized she'd been a queen all along.